Good morning and welcome, Patriot Radio News Hour. I'm Joe Jaquint, CEO of the Patriot Trading Group, and our toll-free number, 800-951-0592. The website at allamericangold.com, and it is Wednesday already. We got a little bit, I guess, of a relief rally today. We'll see if it holds. Didn't hold yesterday. The Dow finished down about 300 points again yesterday, but right now up 200. Gold's up almost a dozen right now, 17.15. Silver's up 30 cents, squarely back above $18 here. Crude oil, interesting enough, crude oil's down, yet gasoline prices in a large parts of the country rising because imbalances in supply, all kinds of other things. OPEC actually cut oil production. It's more symbolic. 100,000 barrels yesterday. This oil market is very, very interesting because I think they've made the decision, Jason, this is just me, hey, we're going to keep gasoline low. We don't care how high diesel goes. Diesel here in Arizona back to $5 and rising. But either way, again, this is short-lived. The supply situation hasn't changed unless we have a depression coming very, very quickly. The demand situation still too big for crude oil really to have any meaningful effects right now. Supplies aren't able to build with the demand that we have, Jason. But it is interesting. I think all the markets are confused. Europe's talking about trying to put price caps on energy. Jason, this is a policy that they always say, hey, we shouldn't have done that. These don't work. Price caps don't work. That's a bad idea. But when things really get tough, they always seem to want to bring it back out.
Yeah, that's right, Joe, and we know that oil is not going to stay down at this price range the way things are set up. So here's the other thing. You've been talking about natural gas. I'll know that's going to be the big thing here in the next couple of months. Summer's going away, and then the natural gas goes up. You know, it's already up. It's going to get cheaper when everybody starts using it to heat their homes.
And heating oil for the East Coast. I don't know how much heating oil is used on the West, but heating oil, another major way people heat homes in the East, very expensive right now as well. And then, the state of the consumer out there, the biggest jump in credit card debt since 1999. They're saying that credit card debt held by households in the United States surged 13% in the second quarter, the largest increase in debt since 1999, according to the Federal Reserve. More consumers increasingly relying on credit cards to pay their bills. And, of course, we know as interest rates rise, Jason, those minimum payments rise as well. But listen to this. Credit card balances increased by $46 billion, the second biggest source of overall debt last quarter. That's not supposed to how credit cards are supposed to work. Obviously, the biggest, if you will, increase in debt should be through a home purchase, right? That's big, right? Most people, we're not billionaires and pay cash for the house. So it normally goes home. Unfortunately, then student loan debt, then automobiles, and credit cards is always the smallest level of growth, and it jumped to number 2 behind mortgages, Jason.
Credit card companies are going to love the digital currency because they know that it's going to be free government money to those that can't pay their bills, and pressure because they'll give less money to those up higher, so that's going to be more credit card use because, hey, they know how to work hard and cover those monthly bills, Joe. So I bet the credit card companies are just licking their chops at the digital currency, Joe.
Well, and again, this is another situation, right, too. We didn't think about this either, right? How is that going to affect all of the credit card debt that's out there? all of that remains to be seen. Canada today raised interest rates 0.75%. As expected. I'm pretty much thinking universally outside of Japan, because Japan's just given up. I think we're going to see all the other major central banks, which are really us, the EU, all going 0.75 point, which is, again, going to make housing, people buying homes now, housing down 25%. Refinance, this is down 83%. As of this morning, the new 30-year fixed, 6.25%. Last week, the average was 5.94, but then again, that was the average. By the end of the week, last week, it had jumped to over 6%, Jason. Now this morning, 30-year 6 at 6.25, which is going to put homes out of reach again for more and more people.
Yeah, man. It's I know some people that are trying to buy a house currently. They got the best rate they could get, 6%, good credit, 6%. Yeah. So it's going up, Joe. I think the mortgage companies they're trying their best to keep it a little lower than they should, but it's the dam is breaking, and they're gonna jack up those rates here soon, and that's going to be 7% and 8% then.
Yeah, I mean, really, think about where, we're going to get 3/4, and then I think they're going to do 50-50, so that's another point on top of that. I don't see how. I actually, mortgage rates at 7+%, possibly 8% by the end of the year. Man, who would have thought? Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back after the break. 800-951-0592, Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason here on this Wednesday. In case you missed it, yesterday, the EU announcing major bailouts of all of its energy companies, and then to follow that up now, trying to come up with a plan for price controls. And again, this is just another symbol of how out of touch the central bankers are. Jason, they lied to us the whole time about inflation. They tried to pretend that it wasn't happening. And of course, everybody knew otherwise. They purposely created this war with Russia and Ukraine. And now it's causing poverty. Let's just call it what it is. Take Arizona as an example. This is, I would say, a boom state, right? When you think about the states that are doing better, I think like Florida, Texas, Arizona, Colorado, right? I think those states come to mind. Maybe North Carolina as well, kind of being the states that are prospering in all of this. Here in Arizona, as an example, evictions. Right? Think about when you get to the eviction stage. This is people that are leaving now, the middle class, the working middle class, the lower middle class, and obviously people already in the lower class getting ready to become homeless. Eviction filings in Arizona, the highest in 13 years in August. 6,574 eviction notices in Maricopa County alone, Jason. And again, this is just another sign.
You talk about the government essentially taking over energy in Europe, but we kind of have a little bit of a preview. It's been very quiet, but Japan bought the entire stock market because they don't have the world reserve currency, so they did the best thing they could. They just kept buying everything that was in their power. The government of Japan owns the entire country and all the companies there because they own the majority of the stock there now. This is where we're headed. When we talk lords and peasants, Joe, it's because there's going to be a government overlord and their corporations, and then the lower class, because the middle class and the business class will be gone, Joe. So Japan has already showed it. It's been very quiet, but Japan has done this same thing. Europe is following suit.
Yeah, and how about this? Boom company. Talked about boom states. Amazon, obviously. But Bezos is the second richest guy in the world now, says it is scrapping plans to build dozens, and by the way, the dozens 48 warehouse facilities across the United States, citing slow sales growth. They said that they're planning to either close or abandon, I'm sorry, I said 48, 42 facilities across the country. Listen to this, 25 million square feet of now unusable space. Amazon also said it's the delaying the opening of 21 other locations. So really, Jay, we're talking about 63 locations, and it's Amazon.
Yeah. Well,
so when they build a location, you're talking, what? I don't know, on average, what, 500,000 square feet on average?
I saw a video, a guy in California who he watches what's going on, and he talking about the glut of cars suddenly that's happening. All these cars. And one of the auction lots he was showing had like 30 to 40 of these Amazon vans being just auctioned off and get rid of them. Usually you don't get rid of fleets of vans if things are going in the right direction. And at this great reset that we're heading into, I think there's going to be a lot of drones here in the near future dropping stuff off, so they don't have to pay that driver at all. So why build another warehouse when you can get essentially the Goodyear blimp carrying a bunch of drones and packages all automated, Joe? I've seen these things.
And again, I want to bring that up because, again, we're just putting signs together here. We've never had this environment. This is a brand new, whether they want to admit it or not, this is a brand new environment, which is they don't want to say recession. That's fine, I guess, if you want to change what you said the definition of a recession was. Listen, I didn't make up the definition of a recession. Jason didn't make it up. This is what the central bank said a definition of a recession was. 2 straight quarters of declining growth, which we've already had. We're on our way to a 3rd straight quarter of declining growth. But they're saying, no, it's not a recession, because here's the reality, Jason. Never, ever has the Fed been raising interest rates during a recession. And here's the thing. They're not just raising rates a little bit. It's not like, hey, we did one last one before we realized it. No, this is, think about this. The 75 basis points, even though it's not enough, it's still the largest rate hikes that the Fed has done in, 25 years? 30 years?
That's right, Joe. And remember, I was looking at the minutes of the meeting, I think 2 months ago from the Fed, and they mentioned inflation like 94 times and didn't use the word recession at all. And then, of course, Joe Biden came out and decided to redefine what recession is, because what you're talking about, Joe, is happening. So we'll just change the definition of what's going on around us. So that's the president working in the pocket of the Fed, telling everybody exactly not a recession. We got to redefine, Joe. Right? We got to change the meaning of it. It's not happening, Joe. It's not happening.
And again, they can change it all they want. It doesn't change the fact this has never been done. How bad are things getting? The British pound hit the lowest levels now since 1985. It is now on the precipice of hitting the lowest levels ever. And again, that's not a good thing. That just tells you how bad things are. Look at the euro. The euro's below $1. The pound, the weakest since 1985, right? The euro, the weakest since almost inception. The euro started out at about 75 cents. Didn't stay there that long. Has been squarely over $1 for all of this millennial. And now, Jason, we've got 2 of the most industrialized places in the world, talking about the UK, talking about Germany and France and Spain and Italy, getting ready to implode. And of course, once again, right, nobody's warning you about what this is going to do to the banks because they don't want you to know.
And Joe, essentially, a lot of this has already happened. Things and decisions are made, and then you feel it even up to years later. Just last night, I was at Jack and I and my wife Brooke, we all went to a restaurant, and this restaurant's owned by a guy that I delivered pizzas for. I was a pizza delivery driver for a lot of years. I bought my house, and I was able to stay in my house off of being really smart, off of just being a pizza delivery driver. My wife was a stay-at-home mom to raise our son. And through pizza delivery only, back in 2004, 2005, 2006, 7, 8, I did it all on that job. So I was talking to him, we're like, hey, how's the old pizza joint going? He's talking around, he's like, oh, we don't even do delivery anymore. We can't do that. We just have DoorDash and whatever. There's like two delivery services. They just do it. And think about what, because most people don't understand what that means. When I was a pizza delivery driver, you made minimum wage or a little better wages. Then you got paid for the use of your car on every delivery to help pay for the car, and then you got the tips. Okay, so there's a way to make some pretty decent money, kind of like a waitress, and you got the minimum wage, minimally a minimum wage. Well, the DoorDash guys don't get minimum wage; they don't get paid very much for these deliveries. This is how you condense and make the average working man settle for less and less and less. Joe, I don't know how a pizza delivery driver, even as crafty as I was, could ever buy a house delivering pizzas at all, or delivering with these food services, Joe.
Yeah, and it's people forget these things, right? These are the reality. No one in the right way. You could buy a house as a pizza delivery driver. You could back in the day. You could have moved out on a minimum wage job. When I was growing up, everybody I knew that moved out, you moved out of your parents' house. Listen, you were 18, and by and large, I mean, there were some exceptions, but if you were 18 and you weren't going to college, you moved out of your parents' house. And you did it on a minimum wage job and paid rent and did all that. You didn't need 5 roommates or anything like that. You may split the cost. Hey, I got a roommate. We split costs, but the bottom line is, Jason, you could do it then. It's not doable today. Matter of fact, listen to this: 67% of all the kids, and I say kids, so let's. By the way, kids now got a new definition. Apparently, if you're under the age of 40, you're still a kid now. 67% of people that had to move back in with their parents because of COVID, Jason, they're still there. They're still at mom and dad.
And you're talking about years ago how it was different, same as me, but now we live in a world where people in their 50s are moving back home to their parents who are in their 70s. This is the world we live in. I know a lot of people make, there's a little cracks about Hispanic people. There's too many people living in a small one-bedroom apartment. Well, there's a reason for that. You pool your resources. You're doing what you can to make it work. And now, look, we have people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, maybe even their 60s moving back home. If their parents are still alive, if that asset's even available, then everybody else is just maxing out on credit cards and going into Food Lion Show.
Yeah, and it's something where, we can sit there and pretend that, oh, well, yeah, I'm there. I'm helping my parents, take care of themselves. Listen, the reality is simple. You're there because you have to be, because it's not affordable.
Joe, have you heard the stories? Have you heard the stories of the people where the parent dies? And, they just sort of wrap the parent up in plastic so they can keep collecting that government check because they have no way of paying for anything else. These stories are becoming more common. Hey, dad died. I'm living with him. I got no income. Wrap him in plastic, and I'll keep collecting the check because I have no other way of feeding myself, Joe. This is the kind of things that are getting ready to happen.
And again, this is happening over and over on scales that everybody I know, everybody in my friend group has adult children. I mean, adult children. I'm not talking about, my youngest son who's a sophomore in college, right? When college is over for the summer, he comes home. He gets a job, saves some money so he can go back to school with some money in his pocket. But the bottom line is, my older son at 23 years old, he's rare. He's rare now, 23 years old, and he doesn't live with mom and dad. And, not only does he not live with mom and dad, Sarah and I, we do not support him. He pays his own bills. He pays for his own health insurance. The only thing we pay for, he's on our cell phone plan just because it doesn't cost us, whether he was on our plan or not on our plan, it wouldn't cost us any more or less. But other than that, We don't pay for anything.
Joe, there's only one difference.
Rare.
One difference between your son and some other kid that can't do that is one thing. It's one thing. It's education. The reason that people listen to shows like this is so they can figure out what's going on so they can make better decisions. Your son has been educated to understand how money works and how to navigate the world we live in. This is why people listen to the Patriot Radio News Hours, because, hey, if you want a kid that's like Joe's kid, listen in. Gold and silver is a big part of it, and Joe's gonna always bring this information to you, Joe.
You know, and something I'll give you. So our younger son, like I just told you, right? He's a sophomore. We got him a credit card. It's tied to his bank account, but mom and dad are helping him build credit. He is extremely intelligent. Wait till I tell you this story. This is a conversation my wife and son had the other day. We'll be right back. 800-951-0592, Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason, and we're just talking about the state of things, and education, and not education from a parent's perspective, education from a schooling perspective are two different things, and it's amazing what's happened to the school system in this new woke environment, and what they don't teach these kids. It's not surprising when I see stories about credit card balances now being the second biggest driver of debt growth in the second quarter this year. This just tells you how uneducated people are, and they go about it. They want to make sure these kids don't know anything about debt, because they're telling them, right, hey, you've got to go to school, you've got whatever you do, if you've got to mortgage your future, that's what you need to do. And all of these kids have done it, and my youngest son's a great example. His school, because when I went to school, you had a class, an economics class, where you had a checkbook, you had to write checks, right? You wrote checks for your rent and your grocery bills, right? They showed you how to manage money. They don't do that. He had no idea how a credit card worked. None. It was hilarious. I'm listening to this conversation with him and my wife, because my wife told him, listen, I want you to use the card once a month, and then we want you to pay it off. So he used it, and he calls my wife, and he's just asking questions because he doesn't know. So it's a $500 limit on the card, okay? So he's sitting there thinking that every month he can charge $500.
Uh-oh.
Right? And my wife's like, no, that's how that. If you spent $500, if you charge $500 today, and this was, let's just say the last day of August, come September 1st, you don't get to charge another $500, right? You gotta pay off the balance. And then my wife was explaining to him, again, because this isn't our money, I'm not paying his credit card, right? This is being paid for from the job that he got over the summer, and my wife tells him, listen, if you don't pay that balance off, they're going to charge you 18% interest. And I laughed because I thought it's probably more like 24, but okay, but still. She goes, so if you want to throw away 18 cents of every dollar, only make the minimum payment. Now, my son does the right thing. He ended up paying off the entire balance, but he was clueless, Jason. How is it that these kids, he's a sophomore in college, and they didn't even explain to him how credit cards work? Because what's the first thing that happens at a college campus, right? Hey, sign up for this credit card. Look, we're giving you free money. They don't even know how to manage money.
Debt slavery. Man, it starts with your school loans, and then it goes to the credit cards. And that's why you have doctors that are they do all the hard work and do all those extra years of school, and boy, they get out of they get out and get their own practice, and they're still paying on this debt. And that's when the medical industry comes in and says, well, I can help you out that debt. Well, you got these certain drugs you need to enforce, and we got this virus showing up. And, that's why that's how everyone gets manipulated, Joe.
It's all tied together. So, and this is just a warning to you parents out there. Because, like I said, you know what? He's a smart kid. But he had no clue. No one ever told him, don't assume that your kids know about these things. And this is exactly how they want it to be. Because when they apply for those student loans, if they actually knew how it worked, a lot of them would be like, wait a minute. Wait, I'm going to be stuck. And this is why when you find out, hey, we want to just blame wait a minute, you went and took out all these student loans, you took out $50,000, $100,000 worth of student loans and got a degree in history, hey, that's on you. Well, the realities is they never knew how it really worked. They were just told, hey, you got to go to college, do what you love, be passionate. Don't worry, if you get that college degree, you'll be able to pay it off. They have no concept of money, Jason, none.
I got a friend who's in his 40s, and he's still paying on some of those taco dinners in college from his school loans. I mean, yeah, that's obviously ain't just his taco dinner, but you get the credit card and you get the school loans, you get to buy whatever you need.
Listen, they do a great job. Hey, not only were they, it's not like hey, we're going to pay for your school. We're going to pay for your room and board. Heck, we're going to even give you some extra so you can buy food, right? You can essentially, if you're got decent enough grades, you can essentially go to college, not work, and feed yourself and do all that stuff for 4 years with no concept of what it's actually going to cost you to pay all that stuff back. And again, they do it on purpose, right? They rather, do you know how to use the right pronouns? That's really more important than knowing how to manage your money?
And then Joe Biden goes on TV and says, I'll knock $10,000 off that school loan. Wink, wink, nod, nod, vote for me in 2 years.
Unfortunately, $10,000. Hey, here's the sad part, right? $10,000 used to be a whole lot of money. Still is a lot of money for most people. But that's a drop in the bucket, isn't it, on these student loans? It's a drop in the bucket. And again, just go on deferment for a couple of years, and you'll have racked up way more than $10,000 of interest all by itself, right? Everybody that hasn't been paying their student loans for the last 2 years is in for a rude awakening, Jason. Yeah, and again, only because they don't know how it works.
The guy I'm talking about, he had those deferred payments like 10, 15 years ago, and they'll offer you college deferment. Hey, you don't have to pay for the next 2 years. You go build up your new job somewhere, and you'll be able to pay this thing off. And that $10,000, that's just a couple of years' worth of interest, Joe.
Yeah, and again, deliberately done. They want to make sure they don't know how it works. And like Jason said, the deferments that they offer after you immediately graduate from college, these poor kids have no idea what interest does. And next thing you know, they've gone 2, 3, 4 years without paying, and all of a sudden, they used to owe $25,000 or $50,000, they now owe $50,000 or $100,000 just in 4 years and nobody told them, nobody explained it, nobody went out there and taught them these things. And this was stuff. Listen, this stuff used to be taught in school. Instead, now we get all this other baloney and Common Core, and it's about the process. Doesn't matter if you have the right number, right? Ignorance is bliss because they love debt slaves. That's what they love. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back after the break. 800-951-0592. Gold's up 10, 17, 13. Yesterday we had those $5 Liberties, the 1/10 ounce, the American Gold Eagle. That barterable material everybody seems to be clamoring for. Today's the last day. $240. Buy a roll of 50 or more. $235 on a 1/10 ounce American Gold Eagle. This is the smallest fractional government hallmark coin that the U.S. makes. And Jason, the price is right today at $240. Buy 50 or more, $235 at 800-951-0592.
Yeah, people that ordered yesterday, essentially with gold up $10 an ounce. Well, there you go. So it's freebie time, and so Joe's keeping the price at yesterday's price with gold.
Listen,
up $10.
I'm only doing it because the wholesaler was kind and said, "Listen, I'm going to raise my price on 10th ounce tomorrow." And I said, "Great, let me make one last push on them." So I'd like to say it's out of the kindness of my heart. It's not. It's really not. 800-951-0592. And Jason, I do not know. The currency markets are just coming undone. The Japanese yen, 145. So it was like 140 the other day. Now 145. Listen, don't be shocked to see the Japanese yen at 200. Don't be shocked. I mean, that's crazy. The British pound, like I said, approaching all-time record lows. Jason, these countries are imploding. This is a full-blown implosion. And again, if you think somehow the United States escapes that, Jason, it's not possible.
Yeah, Japan's debt to GDP is the worst in the entire world. So that's why they bought up their stock market, because they're doing anything they can do to keep it floating, Joe. And if Japan comes unraveled, it's still a big, big economy. If Europe starts to come unraveled, it's the same thing, Joe.
Japan's still a $5 trillion economy. I think it's down now. Remember, 20 years ago, we were number one. Japan was number two. Fast forward to today, depends on how you want to track GDP. If you want to track it in dollars, we're still number one. If you track it in stuff, China's passed us. But either way, very close. Right? We're number one. China's number two, but very, very close. Where when Japan was number two, it wasn't close at all. Right? It was like a $10 trillion difference. Well, now Japan, they're not number two. Heck, they're not even number three. They're down to the fourth largest because India's passed them as well. And now all of a sudden, Jason, their whole economic future in free fall, because as the currency collapses, what happens? Inflation gets worse. And here's Japan. Japan's already got the problem of, but if we let interest rates go up, if we fight inflation, then we collapse our economy because we can't pay the debt. Which is the same thing that's getting ready to happen in Europe. It's the same thing that's getting ready to happen in England. It's the same thing that's getting ready to happen here. None of this debt is payable. That's why they want to get to this digital currency, Jason.
That's exactly right. That's the great reset that you hear. It's not like it's a big secret. It's happening. World War II was a great economic reset. No matter what anyone tells you about what World War II was, that was a great economic worldwide reset. What is going to be the major emergency, or is it going to be a multitude of small, medium emergencies? Some big thing will happen. Don't believe whatever they say on TV, what it is. It's a way to maneuver the economic station of the world permanently, and it's going to happen soon, Joe. It's going to happen. I would say, it could be a couple of years. I'll say this. I get the feeling it's going to have to be a Republican president for them to really blow this thing up the way they want.
Yeah, well, you know what? That could be as early as 2024, and that's not a lot of time. At all. The Fed, a lot of Fed governors are going to be talking this week, kind of laying the groundwork for the rate hike that's coming on the 21st. The Cleveland Fed president, she was out this morning talking about growth and the lack of it. She says that as far as a whole for next year and the year after, we expect growth. I expect growth, she said, to run well below 2%. And again, what's well below 2%? Negative 2%, right? I don't even know, Jason, if we can get to zero. Right now, third quarter, Atlanta GDP is already down to 1.4%. A week ago, it was at 2.6. 2 weeks ago, it was at 3. I think we're going to get the third straight quarter of negative growth. And now she's out there saying, well, you know what? For the foreseeable future, I see growth well below 2%. We've never raised rates, ever. When people are saying, I see growth well below 2%, and yet here we are. This is the scenario. Jason, I've been laying this out for you day in and day out. It's so easy to see. The thing is, though, they do a good job of hiding it because, you know what, it's just gradual. Wall Street's been just going down gradually, right? They've kept a lid on gold, right? They're keeping a lid on crude oil right now. They're not really letting you know how bad things are in Japan and England and Europe. We're starting to hear these rumblings about it. Obviously, we're not hearing how bad things are here at home. But I'm going to say this, Jason. Remember what I tell everybody. It's gradual at first.
Yeah, and then all at once.
And then all at once.
So
this is why you got to be ready.
Somebody wants me to elaborate on that Republican comment. Let's just look at it. 1987, market crash, Ronald Reagan. The Gulf War, that was George Bush Sr. You know, you have the 9/11. That's George Bush Jr., right? The 08 housing crash started on George Bush Jr. This is why you start it with a Republican and you bring in your socialist blue team to come in and clean up the mess and create even more freedom-stealing policies, Joe.
Yeah, boy, that is the pattern, isn't it? Patriot Radio News Hour, final segment coming up. 800-951-0592. 1/10 ounce American Gold Eagles, $240 a coin. 50 or more, $235. That's a roll. Those are the dimes, the 1/10 ounce American Gold Eagles, the golden dimes, the best fractionals. Well, I say the best, the smallest, really, the smallest fractional gold coin, which when gold takes off here, I really think we're going to see, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 gold, a 10th ounce gold eagle. That could be $500. So, put them away while you can. You think I'm wrong? Just go back to Y2K. Eric was running Y2K specials. These 10th ounce gold eagles were $32.
Yeah,
that's a fact.
Everything's a lot more expensive since 2000. Can you imagine if you had those prices? Yeah.
How about this? BlackRock. The ones that are privately owned by Vanguard. They came out today and said the Fed will not be able to avoid recession. It's not going to be able to bring down inflation back to its 2% target either. They said higher rates won't solve the biggest problem, namely low production capacity. This is what I'm saying. Look at crude oil today. They can say the price is $85 or $84 or $83, but if there's no crude in inventory, there's no crude in inventory. And this is exactly what they're saying. All the major things, especially energy and food, there's no inventory. Low supply to relative demand. The Fed is going to be surprised by the growth damage caused by its tightening, in our view. When the Fed sees this pain, they are going to stop raising rates. It will be too late to avoid a contraction in economic activity by then. And again, this is exactly what Jason and I have been telling you. They're going to raise rates without being able to bring down inflation to the point where it breaks. And by that point, Jason, it's too late. BlackRock says the U.S. economy's already stalled. We now see a recession in the cards. They're saying next year. Again, just because they've changed the definition of a recession. But either way, BlackRock's letting you know a lot more pain is coming, which is why you're going to see Wall Street's got a lot further to fall here, Jason.
Yeah, when you brought up Japan, Joe, I just started looking. We're at the end of the show. We'll have to talk about it tomorrow. But, yeah, we're looking at a story. The yen is falling apart as the Bank of Japan deliberately crashes its currency. Think about it. If we get these little dividing lines between the BRIC nations and the Western nations, maybe the easiest thing for manufacturing is to put it back in Japan. Made in Japan. Remember
Jay?
Made in Japan, Joe? Remember that?
You know how cheap it is when they're, could you imagine a yen at 200? How cheap it would be for them to make all the cars and all that stuff again like they used to back there. That's another really good point as well. So one of the things that I guess really what we're saying right now to big business is don't do it here. Because look how strong the dollar is. It's going to cost you way too much. Another great point, which is why I think BlackRock's saying, hey, the economy's already stalled. They just don't know it yet. They're hiding behind these fluffed up numbers, Jason. And this is what happens when you don't deal in reality. You can't actually understand what reality looks like if all the numbers you give aren't the reality.
That's exactly right. Things aren't happening on accident. Things are being manipulated, Joe. It's all rigged. And this is why you got to get yourself protected, Joe.
800-951-0592.